Hello and welcome to Euphoria. In this video we'll be continuing this series on the design and build of a Lego modular building. This is going to be the town hall for my Lego city and have an important place right on the main square in the centre of the city. You can see all about the design of this MOC in the previous episodes in this series, which walk through the design process and some of the choices made during the design. Today we'll be continuing the build of this MOC and carry straight on from the previous episode, in which we built the second or top floor of the building and the roof sections for the wings on either side. In this video we're going to build the main roof for the building, and we'll also build the clock and carillon that sit at the top of the building. So this is quite a large MOC and it's built of several sections that clip together. The whole building is 64 studs wide and it's built on two 32 by 32 base plates, with a semi-basement level at the bottom and a portico at the front. Each floor level of the building is built as a separate section that can be removed to obtain access to the inside of the building in the style of the Lego modular buildings. It's been designed so that there's a main section in the middle with a wing section on either side. You may have seen the previous episodes in this series in which we've been building up this MOC level by level. If you're new here, then welcome, and you might be interested in having a look at how we built those sections of the building in previous episodes. There are links in the description below. We've also been adding fully detailed interiors to all the interior spaces in the building as we go along, and those interiors will be visible through the large windows in the front and back walls. In the most recent episode, we built the top floor of the building and the roof for the wings. The wing sections are not as high as the central section of the building because they don't have a second floor level, so their roofs sit alongside the second floor level of the main section of the building. Now we come to the roof for the main or central section of the building. This will be built as one piece that fits on top of the building. It's a kind of cross shape because it has to deal with the gable at the front of the building and the stairwell, which sticks out a bit at the back of the building and goes all the way up from the ground to the top floor. The roof will support a small tower right at the top of the building, which contains a clock, and on top of that a carillon or a set of musical bells. So I'm going to start the build of the roof with a set of white plates that form the ceiling for the top floor of the building. Rather than making this like a floor plate, as we usually do out of two layers of plates, we're going to connect the plates using some plates on the top and a set of Technic beams in various lengths. The roof is constructed in two halves, which are mirror images of each other, and they're connected by some beams, and there will be arches joining them together as well. There will be a gable across the front here, and another one at the back across the stairwell. Round the edge of the roof is a line of guttering using these black tiles with a rail, which would feed the rainwater from the roof into the downpipes at the corners. So that's the basic footprint of the roof finished, but before we start fitting the roof itself, I'm going to check that this roof fits on top of the building properly. So with a bit of care, that fits on top of the top floor of the building, with these gables fitting over the gable ends, and checking all the way round, it fits perfectly on top of the frieze that goes round the top of the walls. The design leaves an open ceiling for the central circulation space in the top floor, and when the arches go in, this will give a kind of vaulted ceiling effect. Now we'll take this off again and continue building the support structure and the roof. This ceiling plate is rather fragile at the moment, partly because of the hole in the middle, but it will firm up when the rest of the structure and the layers of roof tiles are added. So now we can add the rest of the support structure. This adds strength to the structure, but is also needed to support the roof tiles. I think originally during the design I thought these might need to include corner pieces and be connected somehow by Technic pins, but that turned out not to be the case. So actually there's no technical reason why these need to be Technic beams, and they could just as well be normal 1 by something Lego bricks. I suppose the Technic beams give it a kind of structural look, but actually they won't be visible anyway once all the roof tiles have been fitted on. But they do have an important function in holding the roof together and supporting the roof slopes that will go on top. Now we're going to add the roof itself. Here we've added the gable structure that supports the overhang of the roof gable at the front, and similarly for one at the back. The roof tile pieces we're using for the main roof are these types of pieces that have a slope of 33 degrees, so they're 3 studs deep and 1 stud high. Here you can see how the rows of roof tiles are supported by the tiers of the internal support structure that we've just built. So that's all the slopes for this part of the roof. I could have used another layer of slopes on the top here, but instead we're going to use a small area of flat roof, similar to the ones used for the roofs of the wings. The plates added for the flat roof have an edging of these bar pieces to finish them off, and then the whole roof is finished off with these finials in gold, and in the centre of the roof is the support for the clock tower that will go on top, which is of course supported. Now we'll build the clock that fits on top of the roof. The clock is basically a 6 stud wide cube with studs sticking out all over the sides, except at the back where there's an access hatch to get to the clock mechanism that's supposed to be inside. On 3 sides will be a clock face on a background of blue with a surround of white tiles. I'm using these lovely clock faces on 4 stud wide dishes, and with their gold embellishments they're reminiscent of the clock faces in the Westminster Elizabeth Tower, which is the one that's often called Big Ben, although that's the name of the bell that strikes the hours. I quite like this arch arrangement as well, that forms a superstructure above the clock, which forms the support for the Carillon, which will go on top. Now we're ready to build the Carillon that finishes off the top of the town hall. The basis of the Carillon is these decorative arch pieces. I love the detail in the decoration of the arch. So 2 of these together form a 6x6 stud square, which fits perfectly on top of the clock and frames the Carillon itself. The Carillon, or set of musical bells, consists of several small bells, which of course would be tuned to different notes to play a tune, and 1 large bell for striking the hours. There's some representation of the mechanism in gold or brass, which would be driven by a mechanism underneath. This is all topped off with its own little roof and a lovely gold finial to finish off the town hall in fine style. So that's the roof and the clock and Carillon finished. Now we can see how they look when combined together. Now that looks very good, and it's gone together exactly how it was developed during the design, so I'm really pleased with that combination. And I can't resist fitting this roof and clock to the top section of the town hall building that we built in the previous video. Oh yes, that's just the effect I was after, with the roof fitting snugly and topping off the building, and the clock and Carillon sitting proudly on top of the roof. So if you've been following along, you will have seen that this is quite a large MOC, and it's been built in lots of sections and modules. Now, with the completion of the roof, that's the last section to be built. So now all that's left is to decide where to place the minifigures inside the building so that it's populated with the officials, workers and other minifigs that are working in or visiting the town hall, and then we can connect all the modules together. So join me in the next episode of this series, in which we'll be putting all the modules together to complete the building, and we can see how the whole building actually looks in real bricks for the first time. I hope you enjoyed watching the build of this part of the MOC. I'm curious to know what you think about this part of the build, so if you have any comments or questions, just let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit that like button and the bell button to be notified of new videos, and subscribe to the channel to see more about my MOCs, other builds and ideas, and updates on my LEGO City. See you soon.